Hey, what's happening? This is Isai Rodriguez, host of the That's Nation podcast, where I cater to professional working man, 40 and above, who's looking to make positive changes to his health, lose weight, and become stronger overall through simple lifestyle changes. I'm here to share inspiration, tips, and proven lessons that I've personally learned and lived through in my 40 plus years on this beautiful blue planet. So today, we'll be talking about the grimiest things you definitely forget to clean in your bathroom. And then we'll move on to our second segment with how to use the 8 dimensions of wellness to set up healthy boundaries. And before I get into that, if you'd like to continue the conversation, then get on over to podcast.daspination.com/VIP to get on the VIP Insiders community, where I share more entertaining, behind-the-scenes stories, tips, and hacks that'll keep you feeling younger each and every day. That's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Again, that's podcast.daspination.com/VIP. Be in the know, starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, or wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast episode, and leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out, and it's honestly the one place where your vote truly matters. And now, let's move into our first segment, Healthy Conversations. So in this episode of Healthy Conversations, we're talking about the grimiest things you definitely forget to clean in your bathroom. So me and my wife, we have this kind of verbal understanding. She cooks, I clean. That's basically it. So she shops for groceries, prepares and cooks, all the meals, and then I clean up, basically. I'm the one usually running the vacuum cleaner across the house, throwing the laundry in the washer, loading the dishwasher, taking out the trash, sweeping, mopping, wiping down the counters, and cleaning the bathrooms, basically. And I gotta say, bathrooms are pretty dang gross, especially if you got young boys like we do over here. A lot goes on in there, to be honest with you. And giving the shower, the toilet, and the sink a good scrub-a-dub-dub every now and then can really make you feel like a new person, in my opinion. And whether you're someone who keeps, the bathroom spotless at all times, or someone who waits until the ring around the tub is begging you to be cleaned, you're probably still missing the dirtiest places in your bathroom. And now, don't get all paranoid just yet, None of these spots are areas that your body actually touches as frequently as your toilet. But even though they don't, they can still harbor dirt and grime for sure, So let's talk about 4 of the dirtiest places you hardly clean in your bathroom. The first one that I came up with are the drains. Since you don't ever see the inside of your drains, you don't give them much thought until there's an issue, And the reality is that even though you don't have a problem with clogged drains, soap scum and bacteria can easily build up and release mold spores or attract pests that breed in still water. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered where those fruit flies are coming from, even though you haven't been eating fruit in your bathroom? Something to think about. You should really clean out your drains every 30 to 60 days as a, preventive measure. And even more often than that, if your drains tend to clog more regularly than not. Now, to properly clean your drain, it's recommended to remove the stopper and clean off any debris and buildup from the stopper and around the drain opening using a toothbrush or a detailing brush, something like that. And, a bathroom-specific cleaner, like a tub and tile cleaning solution of some sort. Then pour a drain cleaner into the drains and follow the manufacturer's instructions. Actually, I shared a little DIY drain cleaner with my VIP community last week. It's actually super, super simple to put together. And, most all of us have these ingredients in the kitchen, So first you pour a half cup of baking soda down the open drain. Follow that up with a half cup of white vinegar. Then you cover the drain and wait for the magic to happen. After 15 to 20 minutes or so, pour some boiling hot water down the drain to clear out that homemade mix, and you'll have a cleaner drain. It's really that simple. This works actually well, assuming there's no serious clogging issue going on there. So if there's no major issues with clogging, then this works really well to keep it clear. But it's a must, This is one of those places in the bathroom where you don't really think of cleaning, but it's one of those places that you really have to clean out more often than you think. So anyway, the second thing that I have is the second spot is behind the toilet. Like, this is another spot we often forget to clean that can really easily be teeming with germs, And depending on how far away from the wall your toilet is, there's typically about an inch or two at least of tile or whatever material, your floor's made of. And that's the place that's, easily missed. Dust can definitely collect in that little nook behind the toilet, but not only that, but because of the toilet being there, the toilet itself, this means that moisture from the action of flushing and just daily use, it's more prone to build up moisture back there. Obviously, that's a given. There might even be some backsplash from the toilet, when it flushes. Nasty things to think about, but you have to think about them nonetheless, you know what I mean? And it can really be a place where germs start hanging out. So the next time you clean your floor, be sure to hit that dirty spot behind the toilet. And if the space is super narrow and you can't get down there with a mop, use whatever floor cleaner you use on a microfiber cloth. Grab that baby, put on some floor cleaner, and reach back there and give it a good wiping. It's a really easy place to forget to clean, and it's one of those places that you really should clean because there's a lot of nastiness down there. So I've even forgotten that spot myself, and then I catch myself and I go back and go back behind there with my rag, and when I pull up when I pull the cleaning cloth back, I'll notice that it's a lot dirtier there than on the rest of the floor, like just that one spot. It's crazy how dirty it gets back there, but that's the whole point. We need to remember that and get back there and make sure it's clean. Because there's no sense in taking care of yourself health-wise and then you're living in a, for lack of a better term, a shithole, where everything is dirty and nasty. I'm the type that likes to have everything clean and neat and orderly. And although you wouldn't notice, like you wouldn't think that if you were to see my my living area right now, there's always like movement going on. Like I always have stuff. Books are moving, papers are shuffling. My laptops are always going from one place to another, but everything is always clean. You know what I mean? Anyway, so let's move on. The third thing is, the walls and the ceilings. Now, I'm not sure if you realize this, but the walls and ceilings in your bathroom are moist environments too, in general. So that can help grow mold as well. And sometimes the mold can be invisible, especially if you flush with the seat up, So every time you flush and don't put the seat down before you flush, you'll have plumes of airborne particles and moisture from everything in your toilet that goes everywhere. That being said, obviously, you should seriously consider cleaning your walls and ceiling every other week or whenever you clean your bathroom. At least, at a minimum, whenever you clean your bathroom, clean your ceiling and the walls. And if you live in a humid climate area, like, Florida comes to mind right now, or any other part of the world, or if you have a bathroom that traps a lot of moisture in it, you might need to clean your walls and ceiling more often than that, just an FYI. That's really not that hard, actually. So to clean the walls, just use a bathroom-specific cleaner because they normally have ingredients, to help with mold and bacteria. Spray or pour that bad boy on a microfiber cloth and, to pick up dust, hair, and other fine particles that collect on your damp walls. And you might be surprised at how much you clean up off the walls alone. And you might also pay close attention to any fans that might be installed in the ceiling and make sure to wipe them up, wipe them down too. Wipe down vents to remove dust buildup. And if you're cleaning for the first time, or what I like to call, quote unquote, a deep cleaning, like if you haven't cleaned in quite some time and you're going to go in there and give it a nice, scrubbing, then you might want to consider wearing a mask to prevent any lung or sinus irritation from mold spores, because, they do breed. And like I said, a lot of times they're not that regular black color as you're used to seeing. They're kind of invisible, but they're there. And while you're at it, some cleaning gloves, some rubber gloves will definitely help prevent the mold from irritating your skin and causing a nice little nasty skin reaction. So yeah, get that done. So anyway, let's move on. So the fourth thing I have here is your shower curtain. Now, I don't know about you, but I do my best to avoid touching the shower curtain while in the shower. It's just weird. It's wet, and in my opinion, it's nasty. But even if you don't, if you never touch it, that doesn't mean that it's not getting dirty. So if you look at the bottom of the shower curtain, especially the liner, it's going to be dirty and slightly discolored. And that's because when water fills up in the bottom of your shower, the liner soaks it up. That's basically it. It's the water builds up or pools up in your tub, and the shower acts almost like a sponge. And this leads to mold growing on your shower curtain, or at a minimum, like a little discoloration from the minerals in the tap water. So to clean your shower curtain and liner, you can either throw them in the washing machine or soak them overnight in water mixed with a scoop of OxyClean or something like that. Another cool little hack that works great with plastic shower curtains, you take the shower curtain down, obviously, wet a portion of your walls, and press the shower curtain against the wall. It should easily stick on the flat, wet surface. So so you can spread it out and you can use your favorite cleaner and just scrub away the mildew. Give that a shot. The key to all of this cleaning is to stay ahead of it all, really. Make sure you spend the time to clean up your bathroom, because a dirty bathroom can actually lead to other minor health issues, And that's pretty much it, And so now on to our second segment with Mighty Man. So in this installment of Mighty Man, we're talking about how to use the 8 dimensions of wellness to set up healthy boundaries. So let's face it, you guys, I'm sure any one of you can give me 1,001 reasons why you feel that 2020, the year 2020 has been a rough year for your mental health. It's taken our 8 dimensions of wellness and it's compromised them, and then it flipped them upside down, basically. And if you're wondering what they are, the 8 dimensions, they include physical health, your physical health, your emotional health, social health, intellectual health, spiritual health, financial health, occupational health, and environmental health. And they all effectively overlap with each other. And in 2020, these forces have been disturbed in a real dramatic way for many. So listen, we're multi-dimensional beings. We never operate in just one area of that framework. So we need to be aware that all of those things are interconnected. They work together, they react together, they overlap, one leads to another, more or less. So for example, how there's often a mind-body connection when it comes to, actual physiological health. Like someone struggling with depression might not just feel it emotionally, but might also feel physical fatigue. Like weakness or just tired, just overall fatigue. Actually, there's a phrase in IT, like the IT virtualization world, where that says everything software related ties back to something hardware related. And that just basically means that when you install or configure an operating system or, like Windows or Ubuntu server, each individual virtual component, like the virtual CPU and memory, it ties back to the physical CPU and memory, on the server itself. And I know, I'm probably losing you, so let me apologize for using that IT analogy. It's just, I know it's boring and dry to some, but as I was talking about the example of someone being depressed and how that could also feel fatigued or drained or something like that, it just kind of came to mind. So I thought I'd throw it out there just in case. That's a little piece of my world, the whole IT virtualization and all that. But anyway, this is the same concept when we're talking about the mind-body connection. It's that everything you might feel mentally can and often does manifest physically. And so someone dealing with feelings of anxiety might experience gut health issues or, struggle with breathing while they're feeling overwhelmed. And, people, they've often mentioned that when they're dealing with those types of things, that it impacts their social self-care. It impacts their intellectual self-care. So, all of those things, again, they're all connected, they're all combined, they overlap basically. And all those things require us to have healthy boundaries, like keeping them in check, keeping them, or setting them, that requires us to have healthy boundaries. And that's why each of the 8 dimensions of wellness, themselves, it can serve as helpful guideposts for setting up effective boundaries. And these boundaries, in turn, they protect our mental health. So whether it's because of disastrous year that such as we've had in 2020 or otherwise, we can learn how to use each of the 8 dimensions to maintain our sanity. So now the question is, okay, how do we use the 8 dimensions of wellness to set up healthy boundaries? And that's a great question, and that's what we're here to talk about, or to discuss. So let's start with the first and what most consider the most important: physical. And now a physical boundary basically refers to anything that protects the physical body. It's pretty straightforward. Actually, most of these are straightforward once you think about it. So, for example, with the current pandemic, then this manifests mostly in your preferred method of social distancing. So a physical boundary could be your train of thought saying I don't want to give anyone a hug during the pandemic, or I don't want to shake hands with anyone during the pandemic. All the way up to I don't want it to be touched at all. Well, I don't want anyone around me without their mask during the pandemic. So, physical boundaries also set a precedence of how comfortable I am with you in my world. It kind of sets that precedence, like how comfortable are you with someone being that close to you, So obviously you probably wouldn't stand as close to your boss as you would your significant other. You feel me? And sometimes just keeping people at a certain distance physically from you is all you need to set or maintain the other 7 dimensions. And speaking of the other 7, let's move on to the second, the social boundary. It might be easier to respect social boundaries right now because, well, we're living through a pandemic and we're all pretty much laying low. But you can also conceptualize this boundary in terms of, setting up fences with respect to technological connections. So social boundaries could be you putting your phone on do not disturb mode during working hours, let's say, because, texting can and will distract you and throw you off track, Or it could look something like, not picking up a spontaneous FaceTime or other video chat because, dang it, I'm an introvert, and so you best be setting up a FaceTime invite on my Google Calendar before calling me. I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, the whole social boundary, that's pretty easy to set up and enforce, The third thing is your emotional boundary. Now, setting up an emotional boundaries can mean deciding what you share versus what not to share, with others. It's also about recognizing when you're responsible for your feelings and also recognizing that other people are responsible for their feelings. So it basically involves knowing the difference between being someone's friend versus being their therapist. So if you're struggling with something, you have to ask yourself, how can I take responsibility over this feeling and do the work that I need to combat it? Like, I can support you and I can be empathetic to your needs, but you're still ultimately responsible over yourself, to do the work that you need to manage your emotional wellness. And so setting up those emotional boundaries will allow you to not become a therapist to others and maintain your own sanity at the same time. Win-win. So the fourth thing on the list is, the spiritual boundaries. This one's pretty simple, actually. Like I said, most of these are self-explanatory, but this one is actually self-explanatory and simple. And it basically comes down to the plain old RESPECT, respect. So using the spiritual dimension of wellness as a boundary simply means respecting other people's belief systems. It's pretty straightforward. So as a personal example, a spiritual boundary I have with my parents is attending church, obviously during non-pandemic times, of course. Attending for a select few holidays and opting out for daily or weekly sermons, since my closest spiritual beliefs are more about science than organized religion. Now, I can respect other people's religious beliefs, but at the end of the day, they're not my beliefs, so I don't necessarily follow any of them. Mind you that I believe in God or, a higher being or the universe or whatever you refer to it as. I believe there are good and bad energies out there and forces, different forces at work. I just don't follow any specific religion religiously, for lack of better terms. So I don't get into arguments or discussions about religion unless I know that the other person is just as respectful and open-minded about my views and my standpoint as I am of theirs. It's just not gonna happen, shit. I don't even talk much religion with my wife or my family or anything like that, to be honest, So yeah, keep your sanity and set those spiritual boundaries from the get-go. The fifth is the intellectual. So this one's another, respect thing, so intellectual boundaries have to do mainly with respecting people's innate curiosity and areas of interest of or expertise, so like, for instance, think about how you'd feel if you, let's say, you worked really hard to earn a doctorate of education, and someone had the audacity or the cojones to say, you shouldn't use your title of doctor. Setting up a boundary in this case might mean simply reasserting that, the degree and title of doctor was, fairly earned, and that, you won't listen to that kind of BS. You're not having it. Basically asserting yourself. You asserting yourself and them having respect of, your interests, your curiosities, and your expertise. So the sixth thing is the financial. Simply put, financial boundaries refer to your relationship with money. For instance, during pre-pandemic times, it might have meant opting out for of expensive outings when there were when there's bills at home that need to be paid. But currently, or because of the pandemic, I should say, it might mean recognizing that you're leaning too hard on retail therapy, as I call it, when you can't afford to do so right now, and maybe taking the actionable steps to change that. So if you find yourself overspending because it cheers you up, or you feel you need to make more money or whatever, just remember, you are responsible for yourself and your actions. So by all means, if you want or need to treat yourself to something, do it. But do it responsibly, you know what I mean? and if need be, find ways to make more income, more money. But until then, you have to learn how to live within your financial means, aka your budget, and gather the resources that can help you meet whatever financial issues and obligations you have. And it's really that simple. Just live within your means. Don't be stretching and reaching further than what it is that you can afford. So the seventh item here is the occupational boundary. So an occupational boundary is really straightforward to understand. It refers to your career, obviously, and when it is that you decide you're on versus off the clock. So basically, you can think of it as what people call work-life balance, where they equally prioritize the demands of their career and the demands of their personal life. It's a reflection of trying to balance work and leisure, and this can show up in your life in so many ways. So many different ways depending on your job. Like, if you're working from home, as I am currently, it could be you deciding to log off at 6 p.m. on the dot, not a minute later, not a minute sooner. If you're a nurse at an ER, at a hospital, it can be you not entertaining random COVID-19 questions from Facebook friends after you've had, a long and hard shift. If you do marketing, and a friend asks you for some help with building out an email marketing funnel, it could be you asserting yourself by saying something like, "Of course, buddy." My rates are XYZ dollars per project. If that's cool with you, why don't we schedule a time where I can grab some of my planning tools so we can hash out the details and get that up and running for you ASAP. You just want to assert yourself and let them know that you can't, that they can't take advantage of you just because they know you. Now, I've done this plenty of times in the past, and when it comes time to pay, depending on the person, I may give them, a discount or just not accept their payment, But the goal here is to set those boundaries between your personal and professional lives. And I speak from experience, so trust me when I say that you most certainly do not want those two worlds to bleed over on each other. You don't want them to overlap. It's not good in any way, and it's bad business, in my opinion. So, don't do it. It's not worth it. As they say, it's come around and bit me in the ass way too many times in the past. So again, like I said, from experience, just set that boundary and don't let it go there. So anyway, the eighth thing on the eighth and final actually is the environmental. So again, finally, we're at the last boundary, and this one is just as important as all the others, because as I mentioned earlier, they all live in harmony, you know what I mean? So if you were, thinking whether or not environmental boundaries refer to your environment, then you thought right. When we talk about environmental boundaries, this could refer to the world at large, like on a global scale, or it can even, it can be on a smaller scale within your own personal world. Setting up an environmental boundary could be something as simple as asking your roommate to not leave their dirty dishes on the coffee table, or even just asking your partner to knock on the door before entering a room. It's all about cultivating your own safe space. In fact, that's what all of these boundaries are all about. They're all about setting up your own personal safe space, if you will, physically and mentally, especially in these pandemic times. There's so much going on with COVID and other political stuff. You really need to keep grounded. You really need to keep your head on straight and create that safe zone for yourself so you can easily get through these challenging times. And that's basically it. So that's it, you guys. That's my show for today. I hope you found some valuable information here. And if nothing else, I hope I've entertained you for a few minutes and was able to bring a little manly sunshine to your day. Thanks for taking time out of your day to listen to me. It's very much appreciated. On next week's episode, we'll be going over the question, is red meat really bad for you or not? So if you're like most, you definitely don't want to miss out on that. And if you'd like to continue the conversation with me, then get on over to podcast.dastination.com/VIP to get on the VIP Insiders community, where I share even more raw behind-the-scenes stories, tips, and hacks that'll keep you feeling younger and younger each and every day. That's podcast.daspanation.com/VIP. Again, that's podcast.daspanation.com/VIP. Be in the know, starting right now. Also, don't forget to rate me on Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, and leave me a nice, fat, juicy 5-star review and some absolutely beautiful words of why you love the show so much. It really helps me get the word out there, and it's honestly the one place where your vote truly matters. Till the next chat, take care now. Bye.